Before the stirrings of the world trouble the hush of dawn, I come beneath the silent canopy of your presence, Lord, seeking shelter and awaiting the first gentle breath of your spirit as it moves above these still waters. Before words have shape or purpose, before burdens press their claim upon my spirit, I lay my heart, open longing for descent of your holy anointing, that I might dwell not merely as one who yearns for refuge, but as one who abides in the habitation of your wisdom. Here in the tender glow, where darkness yields to light, let my spirit take root in your steadfast love, trusting that your mercy rises anew, spreading its wings over every anxious thought and uncertain longing. Even when the storms of memory surge against the banks of my soul, I know that you are the strong tower to whom I may always return, the rock on which my hope rests immovable and sure. Let your presence be as the cool shadow in morning's heat, softening my restless mind, inviting me to dwell in the undisturbed places carved out by your hand. If any part of me is tempted to rush or speak from fleshly impulse, let me instead bow in reverent silence, waiting for the oil of your voice to anoint my lips and sanctify my intentions. Lord, you are the guide through the wilderness of my reasoning, the lamp to the path I cannot see without your illumination, and the shepherd who leads me with cords of loving kindness and holy command. Even when the valley spreads deep before me, or the light appears hidden by morning mist, I trust your spirit will speak what I need to hear. Words that heal, words that deliver, words that build a dwelling of peace within all I must do. As I yield each thought and intention into your hands, your presence becomes the sanctuary where my anxieties are hushed, and my will is stilled, forging within me a quiet confidence to walk this day under the shadow of your wings. Let the first words spoken and the first thought formed be shaped not by the clamor of circumstance, but by the voice of the Spirit rising within, that we, your people, may dwell secure, enfolded by light and mercy in every moment. Even now, I rejoice in the assurance that beneath the shelter of morning, I am heard, I am held, and I am guided, for your steadfast love endures as the unfailing dawn. In the quiet place, where words have not yet arisen, and thought is still as the deep beneath the waters, I yield my spirit, Lord, longing for the breath of your presence to move softly over the trembling ground of my heart. I am mindful that before the shaping of syllables, before the desire to rush forward and labor in my own strength, there is a higher call to abide, to wait, to let my every utterance be born not from urgency, but from the hallowed stillness that your Spirit alone imparts. Even as morning casts its light upon the valley and summons the world to awaken, I know that your voice is not found in clamor, nor in the thunder that unfolds across the hills, but in the gentle breath that hovers, sanctifying silence with holy anticipation. You are the refuge where my hesitation is embraced, the strong tower where my vulnerabilities are not a cause for shame, but a doorway to deeper dependence. Let me surrender every impulse that strains to be heard before your wisdom is revealed. Let me forsake the restless desire to be justified or understood in the sight of man, for your presence is my portion and your counsel my delight. Even when I behold the wilderness ahead or sense the pressure of expectation at the threshold of a new day, I trust that you will anoint my tongue as with oil, refining what is spoken until it carries the balm of your mercy and the light of your truth. Lord, invite me into the hush that lives between each breath, where holy anointing prepares me not just to speak, but to dwell, where each word is weighted with the gravity of your love, and each silence becomes a sanctuary into which you pour peace. We, your children, gather in these spaces of awe, longing for nothing more than the assurance that you speak first, that you guide our every intention, that you deliver us from the folly of flesh and the tyranny of noise. Even when shadows lengthen or strong winds threaten to scatter my thoughts, I remember you are the shelter whose wings overshadow all confusion, the fortress where my heart finds quiet, the shepherd who calls me by name into the green pastures of your presence. As the stillness before utterance enfolds me now, I rest, and I trust, confident that spirit-breathed silence will bring forth a harvest of wisdom, for you are the author of peace, whose word endures beyond the breaking of the dawn. When the storms of uncertainty gather upon the horizon and whirlwinds rend the borders of my carefully tended peace, I draw near yet again, Lord, for you are the ancient refuge, the everlasting wings beneath which I hide when my vision falters and my strength grows faint. Like trembling branches straining against the tempest, I acknowledge how frail my understanding proves when weighed against confusion, how my own wisdom flickers and fades amidst the outcry of circumstance. Even as the world clamors for resolution, and my heart seeks steady ground, I am reminded that you are the strong tower to whom I may run the mighty rock, unmoved by shifting seasons and unbroken by the force of the storm. Let me, O Lord, resist the urge to answer the whirlwind with the language of my flesh. Let me instead rest beneath the shadow of your presence, trusting that the counsel of your spirit brings order to chaos, clarity to the fog, and salvation to the soul wandering perilous valleys. If you are weary this day from wrestling with uncertainties that swirl like dust upon the wilderness road, know that his wings stretch over you, that his mercy broods over confusion, that his presence circles your life with a shield unyielding. Even when the path disappears beneath the flood, even when all clarity drowns beneath rising waters, I know you are the guide who parts the storm with a word, who delivers the weary into sanctuary, who anoints the battered spirit with oil of peace. I trust, Lord, not in my fleeting perceptions, but in your holy counsel, for you encircle me with steadfast love and make of my trembling heart a dwelling for your wisdom. Even as the winds rage, your spirit hovers, bringing discernment where reason cannot, lighting the hidden path with unquenchable fire, whispering direction where noise would silence your voice. I rest beneath your wings, Lord, as wings against the whirlwind, knowing that no tempest can uproot me from your hand, and no shadow can hide me from your steadfast gaze. Here as the storm quiets, I yield, I trust, I wait anchored within the fortress of your presence, confident that your counsel will guide me from the darkness into the dawning of your peace. There are days, Lord, when I awaken to the barren hush of a wilderness season, where each path ahead seems tangled by thorns of hesitation, and the landmarks of certainty have faded beneath the drifting sands of doubt. Yet even in this wilderness, where my own wisdom withers and my resolve is as fragile as grass before the wind, I come to you seeking the holy guide who whispers not in thunder, but in the calm that lingers between each anxious heartbeat. You are the silent companion who knows the territory of my uncertainty, the holy presence who never loses the way, the shepherd who gathers me close when the way narrows and the shadow stretches long across the earth. Even when I cannot see the ending from the beginning, Lord, I know your spirit walks before me, creating streams in the desert and placing light like a lamp beneath my feet. Let me be willing to rest before each first step, Lord, turning away from the tyranny of haste, yielding my direction to the counsel that comes from above rather than from the clamor of my own planning. Even as I wander through valleys that echo with questions, I remember that you are both the refuge for the weary traveler and the voice who calls forth wisdom from the heart of desolation. If any listener finds himself lost among barren outcroppings or hemmed in by the wilderness of uncertainty, let this promise become our anchor. You are the God who turns wastelands into pathways, who leads by fire in the night and cloud in the heat of the day, who delivers from confusion into clarity, from wandering into holy purpose. We trust as the dawn follows darkness, and the dew settles quietly upon the ground, that your silent leading shall reveal wisdom where none was seen, that your gentle command will make the crooked paths straight, and the rocky road a dwelling for your presence. Even as I linger in the quiet expectancy of the wilderness, I surrender my need to know and control, for you are the beginning and the end, the guide, and the deliverer, the strong tower to which I run, and the shepherd who leads me beside still waters. Let your silent wisdom lead my steps with a peace that surpasses every trace of fear, and let each breath in the wilderness become an act of trust, until the path is bathed in your light and the journey rests beneath the shadow of your wings. Lord, I come before you with the longing that rises in the silent moments before words are shaped, for my heart knows how easily the tongue is kindled by impatience, and how quickly the soul may spill speech that has not rested beneath your holy covering. You are the source of the anointing oil that softens every harsh edge and guards each word that desires to leave my lips. So I seek you as my refuge, my unshakable foundation, trusting that by your grace I may wait until your discernment settles as dew upon my spirit. Even when quick response is demanded, and my flesh would rush to judgment, I acknowledge your spirit as the gatekeeper of wisdom, able to steer my every answer away from the snare of pride or haste and toward the shelter of your peace. Let me be as a vessel emptied of self-assurance, yielded for your filling, until the oil of your presence illumines my thoughts and sanctifies my speech. Let every utterance flow from the deep place where your truth abides, gentle as a stream under the shelter of your wings. Lord, you are the one who turns salt waters sweet, the one who transforms the fire of anger into the warmth of lasting compassion, the one who delivers from bitter striving and leads beside still waters of understanding. Even when the path before me is tangled and decisions press heavily like the shadow of night, I know your spirit will deliver wisdom in the hour of need, providing not just answers for the moment, but a dwelling in peace that endures well beyond the weight of earthly trial. If any soul who hears this prayer stands at a threshold of choices, poised for reply or response, may your holy oil descend upon their lips, and their hearts that words would be few, until guided by the light that never falters. We trust you, Lord, and in the strong tower of your presence, we rest believing that your discernment will guide us through the valley and set our feet on the path of righteousness. As the day unfolds and voices swirl around us, let the fragrance of your anointing be upon our words, and the blessing of your counsel rest upon our spirit like oil glistening in the morning sun, a sign that your wisdom remains steadfast and holy at the gates of every decision. Lord, I come before you in the hush that lingers beneath the shadows, where valley after valley seems to stretch beyond the reach of mortal courage, and where the light falters behind the curtain of weary circumstance. In these darkened seasons, when each step feels weighed by invisible burdens, and the landscape of hope is hidden by fog and silence, I plead for your guidance as oil poured out over trembling hearts. Even as the path narrows, and the storms of confusion threaten to obscure every familiar landmark, I remember you are present not as a distant observer, but as a shepherd who walks with me, carrying the lamp that scatters the gloom and the staff that wards off unseen fears. You are, Lord, the strong tower into which we run, the fortress that cannot be shaken by the winds of affliction, or the howl of the midnight tempest, the dwelling whose doors are never shut against the cry of your people. Let the prayers of your children ascend as incense through the shadows, seeking not merely to escape trial, but to find the wisdom that flourishes in the valley, the peace that takes root where sorrow resides. Even when despair claws at the soul and shadows press against the heart, I know your presence enfolds us, and your spirit intercedes with groanings deeper than words. You deliver light for each new morning, Lord, and set a table of mercy even in the night's longest hour. So let our prayers be a summons for your guidance, a longing for your counsel to steady faltering feet, to deliver from confusion, and establish us in the wide space of your love. If you who listen are traversing such a valley, may you feel the strong embrace of his arms and hear the gentle assurance that no shadow is too deep for his salvation, and no silence escapes the notice of his steadfast gaze. As we walk through these valleys and shadows, Lord, let our trust be forged in the furnace of uncertainty, refined by affliction into a deep and living confidence. Even now, as I yield each fear and each longing upon your altar, I proclaim that we shall not be lost to darkness, for you are the author of light, who leads us onward, whose rod and staff comfort, whose presence is a song in the deepest valley, and a sunburst at dawn's awakening. Lord, I come before you in the frailty of dawn, aware of the swiftness with which my flesh desires to act, to speak to men, to answer before holy wisdom shapes the moment. And I confess how quickly my hands reach for control, even when my spirit has whispered surrender. You are the steadfast guardian of my soul, the one who dwells in radiance beyond the restless quake of human striving. And I yield once more to your presence, inviting your spirit to harness the wildness of my impulse and the urgency of my need. Even when my mind is filled with 1,000 strategies, and the sound of my own resolve I know the true guide is silent until the heart is still, and the counsel of flesh cannot yield what your breath bestows in holy quietness. Let me remember you are both rock and redeemer, unhurried by my haste, never subject to the impatient tides that trouble my reason, always waiting as an unshakable refuge, until I lay down every anxious movement beneath your wings. If any soul finds himself captive to the tyranny of immediacy, longing for quick deliverance, or struggling to harness zeal, with humility, let this be our prayer: Lord, restrain our running before you have spoken, stay our lips, until your truth sets them free, train our responses in the rhythm of mercy and stillness. Even when passion would surge like fire and conviction presses to move ahead of your command, I know your spirit is willing to lead us by still waters to make the heart a dwelling of patience, where your anointing can settle and your wisdom can flourish. We trust you, Lord, that the path ahead does not depend on the speed of our ambition, but on the sound of your voice calling gently in the cool of every morning. You are the light by which we see, you are the strong tower where we wait until you send us forth clothed in your peace. So I yield the quickness of my flesh to the steadiness of your spirit, a holy exchange where rest replaces striving, and every step, every reply, every movement comes as an offering shaped in your presence. Even as the world clamors for immediacy, I set my heart in stillness, trusting your direction above the noise, resting in the assurance that your leading shall be as sure as the rising dawn upon the quiet waters of the soul. Lord, I come before you with the simple admission that my eyes cannot pierce the horizon lying beyond uncertainty, and though my heart longs for clarity, the path remains hidden in shadow, yet your presence is the strong tower where I am made secure beyond the limits of my own understanding. You are the fortress unshaken, by storms the rock that withstands the tempests of speculation, and worry the holy dwelling where fear can find no foothold, and faith is allowed space to rise restored and steadfast beneath your watchful gaze. Even when the road turns and familiar markers vanish into the mist, I know you, Lord, as the unchanging refuge, the same yesterday, today, and forever, whose walls are built with mercy, and whose threshold is guarded by peace. Within your presence, anxieties must loosen their grip, and even the cry of the restless soul is soothed by the nearness of your unwavering love. Let me and all who call on your name choose to step into the courts of your presence, rather than wander endlessly in the valleys of confusion, for in your strong tower the pressures of the unknown dissolve and strength is renewed as an eagle's flight upon unseen wind. Even as the wilderness tempts us to press forward blindly, let your spirit be the light kindled in the fortress window, guiding us homeward, and reminding us that safety is not found in the certainty of circumstance, but in the steadfast dwelling of your grace. We trust you, Lord, to keep us as your own when we know not which way to turn. Deliver us from seeking refuge in our reasoning, and let us rest wholly upon the promise that your presence is ever enough. If you, beloved listener, sense your path obscured, or your soul unsettled by the weight of decisions untold, may you find beneath the shadow of his wings that holy assurance which neither falters nor flees, and may you taste the sweetness of his peace as pure water drawn from the deepest well. Even in the silence when answers seem distant, I declare my trust in you, O Lord, my strong tower, knowing that within your dwelling I am held in unassailable security until your light unveils the way. There are seasons, Lord, when the soul knows only the heat of tempest, when old angers burn and present fears flare like wildfire, consuming every quiet place with relentless urgency, and the spirit trembles standing exposed in the midst of fire, rather than resting by still waters. Yet it is here when storms loom, and the noise of inward battle grows loud, that I remember you are not found in the roaring wind, nor in the shaking of the earth, but in the gentle whisper that brings peace enough to still the torrent and call me by name. You are the deliverer who leads through the furnace, the one whose presence hovers as living fire to refine, and as cool waters to restore. You are the refuge who calls me from turmoil to trust, teaching the anxious heart to listen for your voice that brings order out of chaos. Let me, O Lord, incline my ear to the whisper of your peace, and not the summons of my unrest. Let me draw near when your spirit beckons, stepping out of the furnace of my striving and into the meadow, where still waters mirror the quiet steadfastness of your love. Even when the old patterns cry for reaction and trouble would press me to move before you speak, I know your word is the lamp that gently marks each place my feet should tread, and your counsel is the quiet command that shelters me under the shadow of your wings. We, your children, remember what it is to thirst in dry places and rejoice in the presence that transforms desert into garden, fire into tranquil pools, confusion into understanding. If you are weary from fire that does not yield or shadow that lingers upon the path, hold fast to the promise that he anoints your soul with peace and delivers you from unrest, teaching you to lie down beside still waters and to move only at his word. So let your whisper, Lord, become the anthem of my obedience, shaping my actions not by haste, but by surrender, not by pressure, but by your leading, until every journey brings me from fire into stillness, and every night's storm gives way to dawn reflected on waters made calm by your hand. I trust you, Lord, and I yield to the hush of your spirit, believing that your guidance remains the true wellspring where chaos is stilled and the soul finds gentle rest. Lord, I come before you in the dawn of ordinary days and the hush of sacred hours, longing that my life might bear witness not merely to my own striving, but to the radiance of a path ordered wholly by your divine hand. I know you are the true light that shines into every valley of shadow, the unquenchable flame kindled in the secret places where flesh is silent and your spirit breathes purpose into dust. When I listen before I act and yield before I speak, your presence composes the melody of each hour, making my journey a testimony of wisdom and peace, where once there was confusion and unrest. Even when the world presses urgently and darkness begs for reaction, I trust you are the refuge behind every faithful step and the dwelling that shelters every act born in surrender. Let your light, O Lord, be the sign by which others see what it is to be led not by impulse or fleeting desire, but by the steady whisper of peace that moves beneath the surface of tumult and carries the soul through wilderness into home. We as your people ask that your counsel would be the oil upon our words and the fire upon our witness, that each moment of submission becomes a beacon to the weary who hunger for direction and sanctuary. Even in the midst of trial, when storms swirl or paths are hidden by morning mist, I trust your light will break forth unmoved by darkness and call forth life from barren ground. If any heart lives under the weight of obscured vision or unreconciled longing, may your presence draw near as the rising sun across nights retreat, offering deliverance, salvation, and unwavering guidance. I rest now in the assurance that lives surrendered to divine direction shall not walk in vain, but will illuminate the way for others, shining as lanterns set on ancient walls, guiding weary travelers safely home through valley shadow and storm. Let the testimony of spirit-led peace rise forth bright and steadfast until every step we take is traced with light and our path becomes a dwelling of hope for all who follow after. At the close of each day, Lord, I return as one who has wandered valley and hill, tasted sunlight and shadow, and found in every turning your faithfulness, unwavering your presence, an unbroken thread, guiding me home through moments of uncertainty and stretches of peace. You are the shelter at twilight, the strong tower, whose doors are never shut against the wearied, or the watchful, the dwelling where each longing for direction finds not cold silence, but holy invitation, a place to lay down the burdens of the journey and incline again my ear to the sound of your spirit's whisper. Even when the fields of evening are marked by what was unfinished, or the questions that linger like evening mist, I know that you remain steadfast, the deliverer who shapes meaning from the mundane and weaves healing from every weary breath. Let me, O Lord, and all who hear this blessing, receive the rhythm of your guidance, not as a fleeting grace, but as a breath that runs continually through the waking and the laying down, shaping each boundary and opening every gate. May our days become a litany of listening, our steps measured by your counsel, our moments seasoned with divine stillness, where the heart may discern what the mind cannot grasp. Even if shadows persist and the unknown waits beyond the coming dawn, I trust you are the light within, making every darkness bearable and every silence fertile with hope. We trust, Lord, that those who make their home in your presence shall never walk alone. Your wings remain outstretched, your oil ever flows, your anointing never runs dry, and your peace like still waters guards and nourishes the soul in all its seasons. So as I rest from this day's journey, I yield unfinished striving and unanswered longing at the threshold of your grace, knowing that to return to you is to dwell in promise, morning, noon, and night. Led ever onward, carried always beneath the shadow of your wings, until every evening ends in blessing, and every morning rises with the hope of your continual guidance. Let this be your prayer today.